For this, we need to reflect on what do we mean by global education. Underlying this global education concept are items such as interdependence, interconnectedness, and perspective. First, interdependence. Interdependence of all people within a global system, often expressed in terms of connections between students in one country with people and environments in other parts of the world. Connectedness, in a wider sense, is another key concept, sometimes formulated in terms of the shared universal attributes of humankind. At other times, applied to real or desired links between areas of knowledge, curriculum subjects, aspects of schooling, or humans and the environment. Perspective is also critical in two senses. The need for a global perspective provides a central rationale for global education. It is generally interpreted to mean the provision of insights, ideas, and information that enable students to look beyond the confines of local and national boundaries in their thinking and aspirations. Closely allied is the notion of multiple perspectives. Multiple perspective is a belief in the educative values of considering differing views on any issues before reaching a judgment. Now, admittedly, even with the existence of common concepts, it does not mean that these are interpreted in like manner by all practitioners and policymakers. Differences in worldview, differences in ideology and emphasis can lead to subtle but distinctive variation in meanings. Herein lays the reason for the erection of barriers to the noble aims of fostering connection across geographic, ideological, political, and other frontiers, preventing the creation of bonds both in and out of classroom, in and out of national boundaries. The big ideas of global education are closely related to educational reform movement. And in view of the differences in the details between countries, the UK, Malaysia, Indonesia, and other countries in ASEAN, this calls for a global enterprise as opposed to a national or regional enterprise. Now, in order to move forward, is a single model of global education possible? It is possible in terms of aspiration and objective at national and global levels, a longer-term objective in that sense. It may not be practical in terms of implementation in the short terms, as national aspirations and objective for all intents and purposes are paramount to many countries, not only in ASEAN, but any other countries in any other regions. Therefore, if we look at it positively, there's an opportunity here. There's a window of opportunity to work on global education as a global enterprise. A key lesson on past years is that the global education agenda should work within the overall international development framework. We should not look at global education on its own. It has to be connected, related to international development framework, with strong links to humanitarian response, rather than alongside it, as occurred with the separate education for all goals and education-related Millennium Development Goals. A feature of the current Sustainable Development Goal 4, or SDG 4, Education 2030 Agenda, since 2015, is that it is a universal agenda. It is a global agenda, and it's owned by the entire world, developed and developing countries alike. In short, it is a global enterprise. In this SDG, or Sustainable Development Goal context, we need to think in terms of global education for global ready students. In other words, it is a global project for global ready students and not a national project for a global ready student. It has to be a global enterprise in that sense. For this, we need to think in terms of international engagement, or we need to put more effort in international exchange among students, faculty, and scholars, which is essential for the production and dissemination of knowledge at a global level. We need to think in terms of global competency, and some key dimensions to look for are, firstly, understanding of global awareness. Second, global citizenship and global cooperation, as opposed to global competition. And more importantly, we must not forget that the acquisition of global awareness and knowledge is greatly affected by the culture of education practice. This is important to us in the setting that we are in, that is, we are in the university. It seems that higher education in our contemporary society sends out contradictory messages. As an institution, it increasingly presents itself as a service provider, that is the university, in the context of the market, promising a value product to its paying clients. But as a socialization agent, it wants to educate those clients to take responsibility for their own learning. I know time is not my side. We have other agenda, so I'll simplify my keynote address with 3 more slides. To recap, global education as a global enterprise as opposed to a national or regional enterprise. It's moving slowly because of the fact that international leaders are creating artificial barriers to global understanding and goodwill. These international leaders, they may be male, they could be female. When I was the Director General of Higher Education, I have 2 ladies who are my deputies. Yeah, I have 1 lady for private, 1 lady for public, and I'll stop at that. I wouldn't comment further. Yes, Dato Asma. But it is a common affliction among our leaders, be it male, be it female, in many countries to put barriers to what we aim as noble enterprise, a global enterprise towards a global agenda for global education. Considering all what I've said, we need to move the global agenda, or global education agenda, as a global moral enterprise, wherein our thinking about practices in and out of lecture halls or lecture rooms should invoke personal conviction concerning global ethics and higher education moral purpose. In so doing, moral and ethical criteria will be incorporated into our thinking about education practice. So, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for listening, and it is our greatest hope that this festival could take further the ideas that I have deliberated on. Good day. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.